Hello, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, and welcome everybody to the Immersive Learning Initiative, Igniting the Internal Spark. So my name's Gene Feldman. I am one of the training managers at Nestle Purina North America. I support typically the sales organization and the functional areas within. And so a lot of my role is to find new technologies and incorporate them either as proof of concepts or as pilots within the sales organization to really bring our training to life, as well as to bring the nature of our business to life within a digital environment. So, and one of the questions I typically receive is, how do I get buy-in for virtual reality? How do I get support? How do I navigate the red tape? Which are fantastic questions. These were all questions that were at the top of my list about 3 years ago. So about 3 years ago, when the HoloLens first emerged, actually, I think it's been a little bit longer now, is when I really realized that virtual reality was primed and we are ready for it. One of the things that I started really realizing is, if we look back, VR's had about 20 years of false starts. But one of the reasons why is the technology could never live up to our aspirations. Well, what we're starting to see with smartphones and with different types of cameras, we're starting to see virtual reality really becoming the forefront, along with the change mindset that's occurring globally right now, with an importance being on the ability to collaborate over geographical regions virtually. So we're really seeing VR coming to the forefront, but we still have quite a few that may not understand the power or have not been familiar with it, that will still kind of maybe give us some roadblocks from time to time, but that's okay. So what I'm hoping to do today is share with you what I found to be very successful, what I found to work very well, and the use cases that I found that really help strengthen your case. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, we have to look at what virtual reality is, and we have to understand that whether we know it or not, we've been exposed to it for years. And so we really need to be able to play on that memory recognition and be able to drive those discussions in that way. So let me explain. I'm talking a lot of big words. I apologize. So let's take a look at pop culture. Pop culture for the longest time has really driven not only technology, but what it's going to look like. So the best example I can give is Star Trek. Whether we like Star Trek or not, whether we like sci-fi or not, do you realize a TV show that came out in 1966 has successfully predicted the tricorder, which is a device we carry in our pockets on a daily basis? It gives us maps. It gives us temperature. It can read our body, our heartbeat. So what we're really starting to see is, we see pop culture create an idea, and as we as developers and as fans, we begin to recreate it, which I would be remiss if I said I wasn't excited for when the lightsaber truly gets invented. But that's what we thrive. We see it as a kid and we want to play it out as an adult. So what I put together is kind of what guided me. As I said, I've enjoyed virtual reality for years. So what in pop culture really has influenced me? But it's more the influence. Most of these movies were Hollywood blockbusters. People can relate to these movies. When you say, well, I'm thinking of virtual reality, it's very hard to keep saying, imagine, imagine, imagine. So we can pull on this saying, well, I'm thinking of something like Iron Man. I'm thinking of something like Minority Report. So I will tell you, Minority Report is one of the biggest ones that I found that most people can relate to. But as we can see, virtual reality and digital realities has really played a part in our Hollywood. And as well as for me, when I start working on these projects, or I start getting into dead ends, or I'm trying to find new ways to approach it, these are kind of my inspirational wells. Going from Tron in 1982 to Brainstorm, which was Natalie Wood's last movie, a little movie trivia for everybody, all the way up to Ready Player One. So these are just fantastic snippets of what virtual reality is and what we could possibly do with it. Because keep in mind, with virtual reality, most of the things that we're doing have never been done before. It's very much unpaved snow. And so what we're seeing is to explain it and to really develop our use cases, we have to go to the next closest thing, which is our science fiction film base. And I would like to put a nod out that Keanu Reeves actually made the list twice. So I totally forgot about Giant Mnemonic while I was putting this list together. So really pull from the pop culture. I give you an example. The project Imprena, my entire VR project is referred to as Project Halliday. So Halliday is a name from Ready Player One. I've pulled in Tron. I have pulled in The Matrix. So we're really starting to, so again, it really helps to kind of tie it all together. Now, beyond that, we have to look at why do we need VR in the first place? Okay, we've been doing it successfully for years. Training has been the same probably since Socrates first asked why. It's been discussion, lecture, but what we're starting to see is we're starting to see new technologies emerge that are really starting to change the landscape. For me as an educator, I will say virtual reality and augmented reality is one of the biggest revolutions to come around in education since Socrates asked why. It really helps to create an adaptable workforce, but it also helps to create agile training. Because several things that we as trainers, we know and that we look at is we want to create an environment that's not only consistent, but it's safe for failure. Okay. When you go out to work on a factory machine, it's, you're learning trial by fire. So virtual reality and augmented reality, that we can recreate physical environment in a digital space to create those consistent, safe environments is essential to what we see as education. So now, let's talk about immersive reality vehicles and digital reality vehicles. Across the VR landscape, and as you start working with your internal stakeholders and your internal permission givers, you really want to look at, but you want to make sure that everybody's in line with the language. Everybody's going to keep saying virtual reality, virtual reality, virtual reality. We need to understand that there's actually three forms. So within Imprena, what I've actually started doing is anything that requires a digital reality is immersive. We're going with just immersive reality vehicles. The vehicle you choose is the is the digital reality experience. So augmented reality, for an augmented reality experience, you're going to access the alternate world, the digital world, through a smartphone. So very much Pokemon Go, very much a lot of the new Harry Potter games. So it's where you hold up your smartphone and you're able to bring in a digital object through your smartphone. If anybody hasn't gotten a chance, Google has a really neat one. Search up an animal in the Google search bar, for example, lion or tiger, and it will actually show you a digital model that you can actually bring into the physical world and get a picture with. Very, very cool. Now we have full virtual reality, what most people refer to. This is the headsets. This is the fully encompassing, is 360 degrees, full virtual experience. And then we have the mixed reality. The mixed reality is, think of Google Glass. It's a pair of glasses that the lenses are actually computer screens that you look through. And what it does is it blends the digital world with the physical. So, and I will tell you, each one has power in and of itself. I used to be a firm believer one was better than the other, but as they progressed, the nice thing about VR is not only the headsets, but the applications are so centralized in specific objectives that really to limit yourself to one type of headset, you may actually shortchange yourself. So keep in mind, you really want to make sound decisions and methodical, so that way you're really getting the most, because trying to explain the budget, which we'll be getting to, can get difficult. So for us, though, we really have been going with the Oculus Quest. We found the Oculus Quest to really hit a majority of our needs. It also gives us front cameras, but the nice thing about Oculus is as companies go to Workplace by Facebook, Oculus, which is run by Facebook, actually has an admin tool for all their headsets that runs through the same infrastructure. So it makes it really nice for security and for app delivery. So that's kind of what we've been going with, but it's really good to kind of set up so that everybody's speaking the same language. Now, once you decide on the technology you want to use, you have to start figuring out how you're going to use it. Unlike other VR or other training initiatives that have been in the past, we've learned through the video game industry, through the smartphone industry, that we have to be methodical in our use cases. My best example is going back to the tricorder. When smartphones first came out, most people that were getting it for the tricorder app or were getting it for the lightsaber app. It was not connected to work yet. Once we got it connected to our work life and we started developing productivity use cases, we saw the smartphone transition from a toy to a fully functioning office device. And that's where we need to get to with virtual reality. And so our use cases have gone through this, they're constantly being revised because we know that the nature of the business is going to change as brick and mortar goes out, e-commerce comes in. For our industry, for others, we know we have to be agile. So what we've done is we've kind of grouped them into buckets. Everything seems to fall within one of these buckets as far as virtual reality experiences. So the first one is customer interactions, being able to have a conversation with a customer in a virtual space, but also being able to pull coaching and data from that conversation. So that way, each conversation we have, we get better. Shelf methodology, being able to recreate a store in a virtual space that not only gives us the data on shoppers' habits, but also gives us the ability to reset an entire shelf in virtual reality without ever touching a product or interfering with a customer. Virtual factory tours. At Perino, we pride ourselves on our factories. Our pet food, we really do hold in high regard in what our factories do. And realizing that our factories have to maintain the same standards as most food-related factories because all of our food is graded for human consumption. So, but getting people to the factory can be troublesome. The logistics can be difficult, as well as safety is a huge factor. So we decided one of our big use cases, and this was one of the first ones that we really focused on, was a virtual factory tour. We're going to go to a factory, film it in 360 video, and we're going to create a really nice virtual experience. So that way we have a very nice introduction into what virtual reality can do. It's got a lot of sizzle. I mean, a very little steak. It's just very, very, because you're teleported there. Sorry, I started thinking about steak and got kind of hungry. So that's what we're looking at. And we're really trying to focus in and hone in on being able to transport people across the distance. This has probably been our greatest success. We've had it in place for about a year and a half, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, but it's been fantastic. Meeting space is our next use case. And this is the one that for almost any organization, this is the most universal VR application. The ability to meet in a digital space using avatars that look like us and that can emote. Way I look at it is why this became so huge is years ago when we did go to the digital form of communication, when we started texting and we started emailing, we eliminated nonverbal communication out of our daily communication styles, to where, keep in mind 70 to 80% on average is communicated nonverbally. So when we are texting, when we are emailing, even though it's extremely convenient, we're only transmitting 20 to maybe 30% of our message. Now, keep in mind, the person receiving is only receiving 20 to 30% of what you intended to say, not what the true message is. So and we wonder why we're confused with a lot of these new communication styles. So we needed a way that we can put in nonverbal communication back into it. Right now, you're able to see mine through the video. However, I can see nothing in return. And so we wanted to really fix that to where we can put 10 to 30 people in a room, in a cloud, in VR, and everybody can see each other and they can enact real time. So we knew that was going to be an ambitious one, but we knew that was going to be really how we were going to get the shift to occur. And then the last one is uncomfortable conversations. So being able to practice coaching conversations, being able to practice if somebody goes on a performance plan, if you have to deliver bad news, if you are hiring people or terminating people. So really, how can we get a chance to practice before we ever have to actually complete that task? So these were really the use cases that we focused in on. And the nice thing is we start seeing is it's not limited to just functional training. It goes beyond it, because these can apply to almost any organization that's in the retail space, but can also apply to almost any industry. So shelf methodology, one example we've seen with shelf methodology outside of retail is laboratories. When they have their stock rooms, they can actually now set it up in virtual to make sure they're maximizing their space and it makes sense. So we are really starting to see a lot of these spread beyond retail and consumer goods. So let's start putting this all together. So the development cycle, so preparation is 12 months on average. This duration is an approximation, but the preparation point is the use cases. Take, I would say, at least 6 to 12 months and really refine your use cases, such as we've done it in the buckets. So what we've done is we've gone out and we've had focus groups where we talk about here's what everybody's looking for. Here are things that people would like to see. So we're going to build our use cases, but we're also going to start having our initial conversations with the stakeholders and with the people that control the budget. So that way they're in that decision-making space of this is really what we're hoping to get out of virtual reality. But this is also time you're going to want to start identifying your vendors. Really start preparing for, okay, here's what we're hoping to achieve. Because once you start the development piece of this, you can't change scope. Because the minute you start changing scope during development cycles, you really can lose focus on what's happening. So spend, in this one, I kind of live by this one, 12 months development. If it's a big project, I want 12 months to develop, test, and refine. So within that development, not only is it going to be the initial project, that we prepared for, but it's also going to be QA. So if we look at the factory, the virtual tour, I spent 12 months talking about, okay, when we go to the factory, what stations do we want? What machines do we want to make sure to capture? What narrations do we want at each station? And what factory we want. So we did all those logistics right from the get-go. And then the development was creating the tour. So what I did was the first 3 months of last year was actually creating the tour. The next 3 months was QA, was quality, refining it and fixing any bugs. The last 6 months was nothing but advertising. So what I started doing is getting this tour out to everybody, letting people know and building the excitement that VR is coming. So, and during that time is really when you get all your stakeholders to see it and really start capturing sound bites and early data. From there, you go to deployment. You don't want to rush it because you want to be able to scale up in a very good way, but you do want to be conscientious that by the time you get to deployment, people are itching to have their headsets. So, but having this clear form really allows the stakeholders to have a transparent view of what you're spending money on until you have something to actually be physically shown. So, as we did this, as I mentioned back to the tour, so here's how we kind of did the tour. So in our planning, we had decided it was going to be 5 to 10 minutes of tour content. It was going to be linear, but we also needed the ability to navigate. It was going to be a 360 tour video with voice narration, and we were going to have 2D video elements that we can add throughout it. So this was our development. This was all our preparation and what we decided we were going to develop. So everybody was very clear on what was being developed, and we knew we weren't going to change. And it created into what we're going to see here. So actually, this video is very, very quick. I know our time is running out, but let's go ahead and take a few minutes because this is how I was able to advertise the development. So by being able to show this video, I was able to actually have the development occurring at the same time. So as it was being developed, we were able to actually capture all of this. So that way people felt comfortable that, okay, I know you gave me a lot of money to spend. We have something coming. And it was a really great way to build the source. So let's go ahead and take a look. I've talked enough. And the music's very addicting. So as you can see, and I'll just talk over the music, which is fine. So you can see, so that really provided us a really quick snapshot to really start getting the advertisement out there. And that's the key. So I told you all of this because the big thing is communication. To get buy-in, to start feeding over the objectives is communication, and it's two-way. We have to be able to listen to what our stakeholders want and be transparent in what we're delivering. Because again, it's going to take a village to really do this. And we're starting to see the needle sway in our favor. So that's what I wanted to talk with you about. We'll be able to talk later on a little bit more and address any questions that you may have and go into a little bit more depth about certain topics that you really found interesting. So I look forward to hearing from everybody, and I would like everybody to stay safe and have a wonderful day.
Hey, Gene. So thank you so much for that presentation. It was really exciting to see all the great work you've done, all the methodology that you put behind it, and the length of time that you actually really spend on going to deployment. And it really does shed a lot of light on how long these deployment cycles take when done correctly.
Completely
as
agree.
of right Yeah, unfortunately, we're just a little over on time, so we're not going to be able to dive into the Q&A. But I already saw some questions popping up on the message board. So if you've got a little bit of time to maybe answer some of these, I know people would love to see some answers.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I'll take over. I'll take a look at the message board as soon as we're done here. And in my speaker profile is my link to LinkedIn, which I check probably more than the average person needs to. So please feel free, ask questions, because I know a lot of these answers sometimes are hard to find a source for.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thank you again for your time and the presentation. I know we all got a lot from it, and look forward to talking soon.
Great. Have a good day, everybody.